welcome back, and with today's video I want to talk about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild again. And the theory that I've been working on for a little while now is that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, taking place in the Downfall timeline. Now, I know there's some people and a little bit of evidence that points to it being in other timelines, especially the fact that there's Rito there is Koroks there, and just a few other things. Now, first of all, I want to point out that for it to be in the Wind Waker timeline, as I've said in a previous video, it would need to be before Wind Waker, not after, because if it's after Wind Waker, then the Zora wouldn't be there because the Zora don't exist post Wind Waker. Now, it could be in the same timeline as Twilight Princess, but the one thing that proves that it's not in there is that at the start of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Link wakes up in the Shrine of Resurrection. Now, Link will only be getting resurrected if he had previously died. The only timeline in which Link is defeated in Ocarina of Time and most likely dies at the hands of Ganon is in the Downfall timeline. Because Link dying is what creates the Downfall timeline, so therefore he has to be resurrected if he's coming back. Okay then, so that's just the quick first overview of why I think it's in the Downfall timeline. But now let's move on to the Koroks. Now, at the moment these currently only exist within the Wind Waker, which is in the Adult Era timeline, and in that we hear that the we hear from the Great Deku Tree that once upon a time, long ago, the Koroks took on human form, but when they came to live on the sea, they took these shapes. Now they fear people, but to me they will ever be my cherished little children. Now, the key word there is took on. Now, that to me says that the Koroks, and including the Kokiri, can take on different shapes and forms, most likely at will. Now, in the Skyward Sword, we don't have the Kokiri or the Koroks, but we have something that would probably be the descendant of them in the Kikwi. Now, the Kikwi and the Koroks share the same traits a little bit. They both live in wooded areas, along with the Kokiri, but the Kikwi and the Koroks both have a plant type element to them. The Koroks are basically just little stick shapes, and the Kikwi are basically just gerbils with grass on their back. That's the easiest way I can describe them. Now, in the middle there, they could have taken on the form of the Kokiri. Now, I'd say that the Kikwi, probably somewhere down the line, they've either evolved into what the Koroks are now, but in Ocarina of Time, the Koroks were still there, I'd say, but they took on human form, or the Kokiri, because Link was there. Link was the only Hylian that was actually there, and so not to make him feel out of place or afraid or anything like that, they took on a form that was more like his. Now, in Ocarina of Time, the Kokiri are the only species that are invisible until you get close enough to them. There's something weird about that because no other species on the actual, in all of Hyrule and Ocarina of Time actually does that. Now, this could just be a way for them to hide or anything like that, but it could be that this is them taking on that form as Link gets close to them. But as I said, this is just a theory, so I could be wrong, I might not, but that's my viewpoint on the Kokiri and the Koroks and how the Koroks could exist outside of the Wind Waker timeline. Now, along with the Kokiri and the Koroks, you have the Great Deku Tree in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and he says to Link that you don't recognise me, which means that this is a Link who has previously encountered the Deku Tree, or in this case it's probably going to be the Deku Scrub, now fully grown up into the Deku Tree. So that's just another thing that points to this being a direct sequel and it being the same Link from a previous time. Now, again, this could point it to being in Wind Waker, but in the Wind Waker, Link doesn't die and therefore doesn't need to be resurrected, as I said at the beginning, in the Shrine of Resurrection. Now, this one's a bit of a long shot. So, in the most recent trailers, we've seen Guardians running through a town which is on fire, but there's one shot in it where we can see a central area which is round with a fountain in the middle, and it has stalls in that central area. Now, there have been a lot of, two main ones I can think of at the moment, where there's been a town with a fountain in the middle of it, that being Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Now, the only difference is, in Twilight Princess there isn't any stalls on the actual inner circle where the fountain is, but in Ocarina of Time there's at least one stall there, and then with Twilight Princess the stalls are all in the southern alley. So what we can see in this picture of Breath of the Wild is stalls on the inside of the central area close to the fountain, but also stalls in the lane on the way away from the fountain as well. So it could point to it being a little bit linked to Ocarina of Time, but it can also point to it being within Twilight Princess. So, but again, Link has to have died for him to be resurrected, so it can't be Twilight Princess. Now, with the Rito and the Wind Waker, so far we've only seen these bird people in the Wind Waker and now in Breath of the Wild. But there's evidence that they've existed outside of the adult timeline era, mainly with a mural on Hyrule Castle and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. So I should have that up on screen right now where you can see this. This was found out a little while ago, especially when the game came out in its HD version. Someone found this and it completely threw everybody out of everything because no one knew what this meant. But now we can see that Rito may exist outside of the Wind Waker timeline. Now, we know that the Zora evolve into the Rito in the Wind Waker, or prior to the Wind Waker, due to it flooding, even though the flooding would be a perfect place for the Zoras, although saltwater Zoras usually live in rivers, apart from the Zoras in Majora's Mask who are in oceans, but never mind that. So with that, it could point out that Zoras have at one point in other timelines started to evolve, or it may be that the Rito have existed at one point throughout time without the need of a Zoras evolving, or another subset of Zoras have evolved into them somewhere along the line, but we just don't know what's happening here. So we know that the Rito exist outside of Wind Waker, so why can't they exist in the Downfall timeline or prior to it, the split in the timeline as well? So guys, that's just my really quick theory on how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild could be a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. It's not watertight, it's not 100% proof that this is the case, but evidence points to it being a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So there's really only one thing we can do now, is wait until the game comes out and see what is actually happening with this game. It's now, how many days away? 17 days away from the time of recording this, I'm sure, and I really can't wait for it. I've been watching trailers for it constantly, been trying to find gameplay of it without any spoilers in it, it's kind of difficult to try and do that, but so far I've managed to avoid all spoilers for the game, and I'm really excited for it. So, as I've said, this is possibly going to be a sequel to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, especially with the fact that there is memories to collect or unlock. And as I said, the only way that could happen is if Link is being brought back, previous Link is being brought back, and because he's being brought back through the Shrine of Resurrection, and the only way that could happen is if he could have died, and the only time Link has died is when the downfall timeline is created at the end of Ocarina of Time if Link is defeated, then it kind of points to this being a direct sequel to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But, as I said, this is just a theory, and I am done with this video now. I think I've went on a little too much. Not being as coherent as I was hoping I would have been, but there's really not much I can say or do without actually having played the game. So thanks very much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think of this in the comment section below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye now.